States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And for the record, everybody looked at the big flag, nobody looked at the little flag. Roll call. District 1, Commissioner Atkins.
I'm here.
District 2, Commissioner DeLarge.
Here.
District 3, Commissioner Mace. District 4, Commissioner Caswell. District 5, Commissioner Tellman.
Here.
Libertarian Party, Commissioner Stewart.
Here.
Green Party, Commissioner Smith. Commissioner Smith,
Present.
are you on the phone? Not yet. Republican Party, Commissioner Berezny. County Administrator, Tiana Smith.
Present.
And Democratic Party, Commissioner Bickle is here, and Director Hargrove.
Present.
Call to the public. Is there anybody that would like to address the commission? Whew, this is going to go fast. Has everybody read the meeting summaries from the last meeting? Does anybody have any additions, deletions, or corrections? Hearing none, they'll stand approved as presented. A discussion of the comprehensive website for voter information is outlined in Governor Hobbs' Elections Task Force. I read it. I think it's an interesting concept. I don't know that you'll ever find a way to get absolutely everything into one website, but coming up with a central location, at least within the state, I think would be great, where people can find out whatever they want to look at in one place. Federal candidates are always going to be kind of out in left field, just because the FEC is never going to let control of the federal candidates come to the state. So we'll always be dealing with the FEC for federal candidate information, although we could put federal candidate information on the state website. Just that there's some things that the FEC, I think, is still going to want to control in that regard. But something certainly I think I could support. I think in light of all of the county improvements to the various departments' websites, I would welcome one site where everything was. Anybody have any comments, questions, concerns, suggestions?
I basically concur with the caveat that the less ambitious that it tries to be, the better. That is, at least make sure there are links to the appropriate, like federal websites or something like that, but not try to capture all of the information on a given campaign.
Okay, anybody else? Commissioner Smith?
I was surprised by the, when it said, moreover, this is squarely within CCEC's mandate under state law. I thought specifically that it would exclude school districts, municipalities, and all that sort of thing. So I was a little surprised by that. That all this time they could have,
Yeah.
could have all been,
Apparently it doesn't.
yeah.
So I know that you have no clean candidates in those races,
True.
but I don't think it keeps them from managing the information for the voters.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
anything else? Okay, next item on the agenda, discussion on provisional ballot form as voter registration form is outlined in Governor Hobbs' Elections Task Force. And since we have the Chief Deputy County Recorder here today, would you care to speak to that issue, ma'am?
Sure. It's actually a form that's owned by the Elections Department, but I can speak to it. The form, well, it's a provisional form. Okay.
This doesn't get picked up in the minutes.
Yeah, it's okay. It's all good. So back in 2022, our departments worked together to create a new provisional form that would double as a voter registration form. So just for those who don't know, if a voter comes to a vote center or polling place on election day and they are not, don't appear to be eligible to vote based on the data that the vote centers have in their poll books, then it could be one of two things. They aren't eligible to vote, and there could be a delay in maybe processing a voter registration form. Our office has what's called a secondary database for voter registration forms, where we enter forms that some of the information is missing. It's either mandatory information that's needed to fully register a voter, or we can't read it. And so if a voter shows up at a vote center and they fill out the provisional form, our office, during that period of provisional form processing, will investigate the information that's on that form, and we'll look into that secondary database and see. Sometimes it's, just a matter of just missing information. Sometimes it's a data entry error. But this way, if we do have the form and they registered on time by the deadline, then we will count that provisional ballot. So in the case where they are not eligible to register, the action of filling out the provisional form registers them. So they will be eligible for future elections.
And if I understand what I read in the report from the task force, this is not, I'm assuming, based on nor prohibited.
Correct.
And I'm assuming based on your comments that Pima County is one of the counties that offer this service in the state of Arizona.
Correct.
But not all counties do.
I can't speak for other counties.
Okay.
I
That was,
will say that, to register to vote requires only a certain number of required bits of information. You could write it on a piece of paper. We could accept that as a voter registration. So this form, it wasn't a highly, risky, revolutionary idea. It's an idea to empower voters to register to vote. Sometimes they think they're registered and they're not. They think it just they come from a state where they have automatic voter registration when they go to the motor vehicle division, or sometimes, they fill out a form with one of the voter registration groups on the street, and the form never gets to us. We just identified there was a group that had 24 forms that we never received, that they thought that they registered. So things like that can happen. So this really, although we can't help those folks in that particular election, the fact that they're engaging with us, it's a point of contact, and we can get them registered for future elections.
how do you deal with the requirement for proof of citizenship for an Arizona resident when you're utilizing this form to register them?
Same way we do any requirement, we check the SAVE and the SAVE databases. If they put in a driver's license, we can check that. We just use our regular methods for checking for citizens. And if we aren't able to establish that through a driver's license number, then we contact the voters and request. We send a letter automatically, request that this is how you prove your citizenship to us. You can send us these forms via these methods.
So the driver's license database has citizenship information in it.
It doesn't, but we have multiple databases that we use, and I actually have a handout. I see that there are some new members since the last time I came, so I can give you one of our handouts. I brought extras,
Okay, very good.
so I can hand it out so you can see all the ways that we check and make sure that our voter rolls are accurate.
Okay.
how do you play? How does a voter who thinks they came into the polling place, thought they were registered, but they get the provisional ballot, how do you notify them that they are indeed registered?
They receive a voter registration
Okay.
card within
Okay.
30 days with the information on it. And it could be sometimes, I mean, there was an MVD issue where the MVD was, it's a training issue sometimes where, especially with the no labels, there's potentially a lot of no labels, folks who are registered for the no labels party who don't know that they're registered because there were some MVD employees who thought that just meant that they weren't registered to a party. And so the state, we just heard in a call yesterday or the day before that the state is going to do a full, actually the Clean Elections Commission in conjunction with the state is going to do an educational piece on that for those who are registered to the no labels to make sure that that's who they want to be registered to. So sometimes that happens, and of election day, that cannot be no labels, and unfortunately, at the point of election day, that change cannot be made, and therefore, they fill out a form and just designate the party or not party that they want to be affiliated with.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So Mary, I thought the no labels party was not going to be in Arizona, or is it?
It
It
is.
is.
So it's very tricky. And like I said, the state is going to be doing some education. Our office already sent out our 90-day notices of receiving a ballot to all voters who are on the active early voting list, including the people who are registered to the No Labels Party. And their notice was unique in that we wanted to let them know that they are not getting a ballot. Well, they are getting a ballot, but it's going to be blank. What happened is that the No Labels Party decided, and they have the right to do this, decided to not allow any candidates run for any of the primary races. And so, and there was a lawsuit, and Secretary of State Fontes said that they were actually disenfranchising these voters because they think that they're going to be able to vote in a primary, but they aren't. And so, we just want to notify them while there's still time if they mistakenly were registered for the No Labels Party to change their registration. The Elections Committee, those 90-day notices, and then the state and the Clean Elections Commission will be doing a lot of voter
It's
outreach for them.
using,
Thank you.
it's one of the confusing things where people keep saying, I'm an independent, and there are states that have an independent party.
Correct.
We do not. We have the no labels and no party declared.
Well, and we do have independent, so we do have several parties. I mean, you could be registered to the Democratic Socialist Party, for instance, but it's not a recognized party, so you won't, you're not going to have ballot status. But if at any time that group of people gathers enough signatures and does what needs to be done to be recognized as a party, all of those people will be automatically registered as that. And it's the same for the independents.
Okay.
Independents could at some point organize themselves as a recognized political party.
Kind of like the Greens do frequently.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. And there's another interesting situation that's happening. As you may know, the documented proof of residency is something that is now required. The state, 15 counties, and the Secretary of State, along with our IT departments, are trying to figure out how to implement that. And we're on our 6th meeting about it while we're trying to come to consensus, so the entire state is utilizing the same procedures. Unfortunately, the law is very vague, so it leaves itself up to a lot of interpretation. So we're working through that right now. And I'll update you all when that's finished.
I occasionally drift off. What was the topic of your sentence?
Documented proof of residency.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Anybody have any other comments, questions, concerns? No disputed ownership of the form.
It's a recorder form. We pay for it and we work together to ensure that what's in the poll book, we're able to get all the information that they need, but it is actually a recorder's form.
The registration form is, yeah. The envelope.
Okay, and for the record, Commissioner Mace has arrived. Welcome. Next item, update on the primary election and intermittent staffing, Commissioner Tellman, but I'm assuming you're looking for some information from Director Hargrove.
Yes, how are we on having enough vote centers and equipment and all that sort of stuff, and temporary employees?
Okay, so Ms. Figueroa will cover the intermittent employees. We're talking about what, vote centers and all the other stuff as well?
Yeah, do we have enough locations that we have confirmed and all?
Okay.
So our intermittent staffing is nearly complete. We've been hiring since January to fill those positions. So right now, we have a team that's doing front office poll worker assignments. We have a team answering public phone calls. We have a team that's working with the voting equipment and tabulation, and then we have our warehouse staff. So I think we're hiring 2 more for front office, maybe 2 more for tabulation, 2 more for warehouse, and then I think 4 to 6 to help staff our adjudication teams. But other than that, I think we have everybody are working.
That's out of a total of how many people working? You said 10, so that sound, about 10, so that sounds, large, but, are there 100 workers in this pool, or are there 1,000, or are there 15, and 10 vacancies is now huge?
No, so currently we don't have a total of, without early work volleyball.
Okay.
So it varies, it ramps up with each election, and
Yeah.
this is people, so we use the terms kind of sometimes interchangeably, but intermittent staff are people who work full-time at our office,
Right.
helping out, and then there are poll workers who work at the vote centers on election day, which is 2 separate.
Yes.
So,
So in this point in the calendar is, a lack of 10 comparable to what you've had in the past?
yes,
Okay.
we're good where we are right now, and hiring a couple additional people
Okay.
as we move to the election.
The early board is pretty much staffed, right? So I think it would probably be a total of about 80, 90 people. Yeah, so about 90 intermittents, and so we need 10.
Okay. Thank you.
Early board, are they, I know a lot of the intermittent staff is just county employees from other parts of the county to be working elections a little bit. Okay.
Yeah.
So the early boards are considered intermittent employees as well?
That's correct.
Okay.
And that's the bulk of those folks.
Election night, we have a lot of county employees, about 100
Yeah.
people come in on election night to help out with those boards.
Okay. Commissioner Tillman?
And are you-
Vote centers, okay. So vote centers, we have all of our vote centers, they will be on the BOS's agenda May 21st. For approvals, there's 126 vote centers. The vote centers are pretty much staffed, except for a handful of locations that are just difficult to staff, normally with, Republican co-workers and cells and places like that. So we are 98% there with staff in the vote centers.
If memory serves, we've got 3 fewer vote centers this time than we did the last time. I believe in 2022, we had 129. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. We are
Which,
fewer.
which ones did we eliminate? Bear Canyon?
You know, the ones that eliminated themselves, I don't have the list with me, but
Okay.
I can provide that to you.
Just the 3 that aren't going to be used this time would be more than adequate as far as I'm concerned. I don't need a list of all of them. I can find a list of all of them somewhere, but if you would identify the 3 that we used in 2022 that we're not using in,
Yeah, I could do.
how much, or I mean, 20, way to put it is 2020. How much continuity is there between 2022 and within 3, but are they predominantly the same, predominantly different, half the same and half different? Just a gut feeling on either your part or the recorder's part?
So there've been quite a few changes in vote centers. I mean, we replaced some that we lost, but then others we just did not replace. So I can definitely provide you, I did a crosswalk for the board, so I can
Okay.
provide that to you.
Okay, thank you, appreciate it.
And I have a list of the early voting sites that are going to the board on June 4th.
Okay,
Did I pass that around?
sure.
Okay. We added a couple of sites due to high demand, as well as increasing 2 sites. Typically, we would have our 3 offices open for the entirety of early voting. And then we would open the Oro Valley location, which is our largest volume location, 2 weeks prior, 2 weeks of early voting. We added our new Vale location, the library in Vale, and Saurita location to the list of sites that will be open for 2 weeks because of the demand.
Okay. Commissioner Tillman?
Just a quick question. Are you continuing the process of no observers at the early voting sites,
Correct.
but observers at the vote centers?
Vote centers will
Yeah.
have observers, yes.
Any other questions, comments? Hearing none. Discussion on the general election ballot. Do we have any idea, reasonable idea, how many initiatives are going to be on the ballot?
Honestly, no, we do not have a reasonable idea. It's still floating around. Possibly 30 went through, or 30 are floating around, but we do not know how many will actually end up on the ballot.
What's the biggest ballot we can run through the tabulators or the printers?
19 inches.
19 inches. So what happens if we need more than 19 inches? We go to a multi-page ballot.
Yes, that's correct.
And there's no, and this is a statement, but it's kind of a question. There's no requirement that the first page and the second page are paired up through the entire process. It doesn't make any difference. I mean, if you've got 500,000 voters trying to keep page 1 and page 2 hooked together somehow with all of those people, especially if you have a mistake on page 2 or an unreadable on page 2, but nothing unreadable on page 1. So can you give a little bit of an explanation how that works?
Sure, that is still being discussed. We're still trying to determine the best way to do it. I believe the ES&S equipment that we have counts the first page. So if the second page never showed up, it really doesn't care. But that, we're still discussing that, trying to determine how best to handle that as we go forward. Now, we were discussing and we looked at duplicating ballots. So if we got page 1 and didn't get page 2, or vice versa, we can program the express vote where it's a single ballot for the entire election. It's just one single ballot. And we could duplicate page 1 or page 2, and then the other one we just have blank and just feed one ballot in as the duplicated ballot, and it just takes care of both pages. There is no conclusion or consensus as of yet what that's going to look like. We ain't talking about it.
Okay, so,
Sounds
so
scary.
November,
It does.
It's
No.
not ideal.
yeah, November is uncharted territory.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I know, well, there are a couple of counties that have had two-page ballots before, but, yeah.
Okay,
I have a question.
Commissioner Tillman.
What is the last time that you will be notified about what propositions are going to be on the ballot? Both the citizen propositions that are challenged and the legislative propositions if they're still in session?
If they're still in session,
Uh-huh.
well, you're asking a question, I am in Arizona. So if they're still in session and they haven't put forward all of, I can't answer that part. But the other part is July. Yeah, so July is the deadline for propositions, but, as far as the legislature and what they do and how they hold up the process, I can't really speak to that right now.
No, but this one other wrinkle, recorder, sort of the citizens' propositions may be challenged. So there may be the recorder answer in terms of checking signatures at the same time that you're doing an election. And what's the deadline for you to get the validation accomplished?
Of the propositions?
Yeah.
It's usually a 10-day period, and they're actually, it's really interesting, in statute, it doesn't say how long we have. It says how long there has to be a hearing and a decision made, and so we sometimes only have 5 business days preparing to review the petition. Hiring, we're hiring 20 hiring. We're hiring about 20 people a day at this point for our early voting sites and ballot processing and petition checkers.
So typically, the ballot date, and we provide that date to the courts, and then they work around that.
And that is late August in terms of getting the military ballots out?
For
What is that deadline?
the
Ballot ballots.
the UCAVA ballots go out,
45 days.
yeah, so it'll be in October.
End of October 1st, yeah, end of
Oh,
September,
they go out the-
end of September,
September,
1st of
okay.
October.
I don't have the date on me
Sometime,
right
probably
now.
somewhere around September 25th, I would think.
Okay.
Okay.
Right.
I have it somewhere.
Okay.
And just to be clear, all of these problems we're talking about will not occur on the primary ballot, just on the general election ballot, because the initia and referenda do not show up on the primary ballot. Just so everybody understands that, because somebody will complain that they aren't on the ballot. Well, they don't belong on the, that ballot. Any other questions as far as the ballot in November is concerned? Hang on, it's going to be a rough ride. It's going to be interesting. Discussion of legislative list update. My name is on this. I don't know exactly what it was that I was.
I just sent it to you, so you could.
This was the thing we were hoping we'd have Mr. Rassi for.
Right, so he
Okay.
just sent his list with that memo of, some of the bills and election days that I sent out, but he wasn't able to attend.
Okay. And as far as legislative list updates are concerned, reading the paper this morning, they're still playing with another House concurrent resolution that may or may not show up on the ballot. So to the best of my knowledge, there's no end in sight yet. And I would have thought 30 would be ludicrous, but 30 may be the bottom end rather than the top end. So,
This resolution is actually very concerning.
Yes.
Because we would have to change a lot of things in the vote center. We have to have separate check-in stations for regular voters and then early voters who come in. Basically, if you bring in your ballot, your early ballot, there is no drop-off for you. You will be required to actually either vote that ballot, and we would have to purchase tabulators, scanners for all of the vote centers. They would have to vote that ballot. They could still drop off their family member's ballot, but if it's their ballot, they are going to have to vote that ballot. If they do not have proper identification, they will be required to vote a provisional ballot. It's just not very voter-friendly at this point. and it's gonna be very expensive. So a rough estimate that I did was around $3 million just to implement this
In Pima County.
in Pima County.
Yeah.
That's not including, I mean, it will be more than that, but
Yeah.
that was a rough estimate, $3 million.
Yeah,
And it will blur the differences of our two departments because it's requiring also that early voting centers will have to tabulate, which is not something that we do. We've never done that type of ballot chain of custody before. Yeah, it's not good.
But wouldn't the governor have to sign off on that?
No.
No.
That's the whole point, is
No.
that it's a.
that's the upside downside to concurrent resolutions, is if the House and the Senate both approve it, then it goes to the voters.
Which concurrent resolution is this?
I don't
2056?
remember what the number is, it was in the paper
Yes,
this morning.
2056.
It's the one that requires tabulation machine, that all ballots be tabulated at the vote centers.
And that you cannot drop an early ballot after early voting.
Yeah.
But you can drop relatives.
I don't know.
Yes.
So
Well, on election day.
you just swap ballots and go in.
Yeah, I don't know. But the reporter was up at the Capitol yesterday testifying about the impact that could have on our county. Our understanding is that it was going to pass through committee, but that they're in recess until June 4th, and that we can work on our legislators to potentially vote no on this. It's actually an amendment to the Constitution, and the Secretary of State isn't even sure if it's legal, what they're doing. And I will say that there's 11 million, we're not entirely sure if it's 11 or 22 million, that's appropriated for this at this moment, could change. But as you heard, 3 million for Pima County alone, and you may remember that the state allocated $950,000 for voter registration roll maintenance and then took it back. We received one quarterly payment, and then we haven't received the final 3, which means that the Pima County General Fund will have to cover anything that we had anticipated and purchased, which we did. We purchased equipment assuming that money was coming. And so now the general fund will have, some people think that this resolution is part of a plan to push more of the funding to the counties and away from the state, which seems to be happening. And so it's a concern for our county.
Which means your property taxes will go up.
Exactly, there's no other way to cover the cost of elections.
Oh, the other hidden agenda is to get rid of vote centers.
Yes,
That sounds like to me.
Yeah.
vote centers as well,
So going back to precinct voting again.
yes.
Don't they want to also go back to getting rid of the tabulation and just count by hand?
Not in this one.
Yeah.
It seems to be contradictory to what, what
Yeah, good point.
we're hearing. Yeah.
Now,
Adding more tabulation.
Yeah, yeah.
that would be interesting if they approve the concurrent resolution to allow hand counting, but also approve the resolution that requires tabulation at the vote centers.
We'll need hand counters at
Hand
every.
count.
Which means you're going to have a room full of hand counters doing tabulation at the vote centers. Interesting concept. So,
And complaining about how long it takes us to get results.
And we can't do mail-in voting.
I'm not really sure how we're supposed to meet all those.
there's times when it's nice to be old.
Multiple contradictory requirements?
Yeah.
Isn't that our jobs all the time?
Oh, gosh.
Okay, anything else on the legislative list update? Update on the Elections Department Voter Academy, Commissioner Tellman, and I think we're going to look at Assistant Director George for this one.
No, actually, that is Director Harbert's.
Oh, okay.
I'd like to preface this, though, with, I went to the recorder's presentation on how you, I forgot what it's called, how your ballot makes it or something.
Yeah,
It
we
was,
did a public tour of our
Yeah.
facility, and you all were invited, I believe.
We were.
Yes, okay. A public tour of our facility, our ballot processing facility.
yeah, I thought that idea was really good. The speaker was a little bit long-winded, but other than that, I thought it was a very good idea. But then it occurred to me that explaining the process to the voter stops at the recorder's office, and you say something else happens over there. But it would be really nice to have some kind of a coordinated way for the voter to find out what happens to their ballot all the way through both. And if you somehow coordinate the two departments in an education program, I think it would be beneficial.
Yeah, definitely interesting concept. I think it has been done before. Actually, we just finished a 5-church tour of doing just that.
Yeah.
Talking about what happens to your ballot, and we start with the recorder, end with elections, that process. And as far as, if we're talking about the voter academy that I envisioned in 2022, probably, of course, I have lots of great ideas and lots of visions, but I do need somebody to help me implement those visions. And without still the right people in place, that kind of just falls on me. So it's still in the process. It's just not there yet. So that's the voter academy, but we will continue to do outreach and presentations and whatever we need to do to get the word out about elections and how elections works. But as far as the tour, I think, we may be able to partner before the general election to do that. Right now, we are in the programming phase of the election where we can't let anybody into our counting room because we've already started programming the election. We have to have those ballots to the printer by May 27th, right? Is that right? May 27th. So we have to have ballot proofs to the printer. So right now, that tour part, they can look through the window,
Yeah.
but they can't come in. But as far as the other part, we're getting close to having maybe a document available, but as far as, been brainstorming, trying to figure out how to do this. So I'm like, okay, if I can't go everywhere, because I want to reach as many people as possible, maybe we could just record it. Well, that's not something that the county has the ability to do. So I would have to get those out there. The will record the sessions to be able to get those out there. So the wheels are still turning. I'm still working on it. It's just not there yet.
It would be really, really helpful for the voter to understand the whole process if you can somehow coordinate it.
Yes, I agree.
Commissioner
We
Atkins?
have two presentations that we could put together at this point that we did for those, for the Interfaith Council.
Is part of your target audience middle school, high school students?
Not at this point. But yes, would love to do that.
Yeah.
But not yet.
And I can speak to that also. Prior to being in the role that I'm in now, I was overseeing IT and our engagement, which included communications and outreach, and made a lot of contacts throughout the state, talked to the Maricopa County outreach, voter outreach coordinator, and there's a lot of ideas. It's really just a matter of capacity. We have 2 outreach coordinators in our office, and they can't go to all the high schools. If they come to us and ask us, will you come and do a presentation on voter registration? We will, if we have time. One of the things that we've started doing is we're about this close to having our voter registration training available online so people can take it and download the assets that they need for that.
and take it on their own time. Right now, we're doing public registration trainings in our office about once a month, and then others are coming to do the trainings. So one of the things that Maricopa County does is they do train the trainers in the high schools. So they actually have a program where they train high school students to register their peers. Down the line, that's something we want to do. But I will say that we had a presentation yesterday from Clean Elections Commission, and they have completely revamped their website, and there's a lot of really good materials on there. So there's a lot of voter education on there. We literally downloaded one of their graphic pieces and handed them out during the PPE for voters who had questions. They're creating curricula around youth, including a comic. I'm not sure it is. They said very soon. But they be up on their website. I'm not sure it is. I think they said very soon. That'll be up, but they do have high school. I think it's like 4th grade through high school on their website that you can take a look at. And so I think it's one of those things that when we have greater capacity, we can utilize some of that information and do a little bit of a better job, but we're never going to have enough staff to go to all of the schools. We can participate in that information creation and training, but we're never going to be able to employ that many people.
You had a very nice handout on the process in the recorder's office.
Yeah.
Could you provide that to all the commission?
Yes, the handout for, oh yes, our life of a ballot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It would be nice if there was something similar to carry it on into the elections department.
Comments, questions, concerns? Future agenda items? I don't have anything right off the top of my head other than
This,
two things.
I don't know to the commission falls on meeting of the future agenda ended so far. So all the sections are vulnerable in a number of ways: cybersecurity, early ballots, things of that variety. And I think what I'd like to do is communicate with the chair and Ms. Hargrove about what's been done in the past, so that I don't have to have you present again if these topics have been covered in prior meetings. You can just point me to some good references. And then at some point I may ask for a future agenda item. Does that
Opens
sound
meeting.
reasonable?
Opens meeting law update, we've talked about that again.
Okay. All right, next meeting is scheduled for June 21st of 2024. Does anybody besides me have an issue with that date?
I will not be here.
I will not be here.
And in the summer, all the trouble.
I'll be at about 35,000 feet.
I'll be on the East Coast.
I'll be leaving from here to go to Albuquerque, so.
How about June 14th? Does anybody have an issue with that date?
I won't be here.
Is it a holiday for you guys? It's Flag Day. I don't know whether you get that. Hey,
There's no holidays in elections.
No.
I cannot be here that date, but I sound like I'm in the minority.
well, there certainly wasn't the level of response that there was for the 21st. June 14th?
I can do June 14th.
June 14th?
We're usually, I have an appointment 11:30, but we're usually out of here before that, so.
Yeah, it's not like the old days where we were here till lunchtime. Okay, June 14th, Vanessa? All right. Anything else? Hearing nothing, this meeting stands adjourned. Thank you all for your participation.
Elaine and I are starting to put together
Any
sessions for
prior
two
presentation
of our
material
commissioners
on
ended up
early
downstairs, if they didn't
ballots
see the little part that's in 3102, they're sitting there going, "Where is everybody?"
I think they would
from
have
an
asked.
election
Yeah,
security
they're both
review,
competent,
and cybersecurity.
there's enough of us there.
Uh,